Welcome back, everyone, to the VS Code Insiders Podcast, your behind-the-scenes look at all the amazing things in your favorite code editor, VS Code. This is where we take a look behind the scenes with some of the team members building the code editor and developers using the code editors that you love. Today with me, Bhavya from the VS Code team, software engineer, working on all sorts of goodies. How's it going, Bhavya?
I'm doing good. How are you? How is your
I'm doing delightful. Just got back from GitHub Universe. We're going to talk about a brand new feature that just launched that got highlighted at the keynote. But before we get into it, maybe you could tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm a software engineer on the VS Code team. I've been on the team for about 3 years now. Previously on the team, I worked on the at VS Code chat participant you may have played around with in the chat panel. So that helps you with Q&A, finding commands and settings in VS Code, answering general VS Code related questions about like APIs and release notes. I've also worked on the hash new tool that we have in the agent that helps you scaffold new projects, leveraging MCP tools like Context 7. And I also worked on the to-do tool, which is getting a bit of a facelift in the next release. And then more recently, I've been helping build out our agent prompts for some of the latest model releases. And I also contributed to the handoff feature that you'll see in the planning mode. And generally, when you use agent modes, in VS Code, but that was recently announced in GitHub Universe.
That's so cool. I've used like every single one of your features, probably in the last like day too, I think as well. Everything you worked on. I recently did use I think the most underlooked at feature is the hash new. I used it recently and like blew my mind because I was just like starting I was like, whoa, that's like crazy. And like it does this handoff and then it like opens a new workspace and it's like mind boggling. It's like so cool.
Nice. Glad to hear that. I'm glad you're enjoying that. If you have any feedback or want to see any improvements, you know who to find.
Yes. And of course, everyone can always go to the VS Code GitHub page. That's the best place to put it as well. The team reads all those. I open tons of issues myself. I was just talking to Rob. I've like had this great idea and he's like, oh, just open an issue, do this thing for settings. So I'm a big GUI person. So I love making settings look better. That's my new plan for my end of year goal for VS Code is really work with the settings. And I know there's people and engineers working on it now. Well, you talked about some really cool things. You talked about to-dos, and then you also talked about this planning agent and the kind of planning mode. Maybe can you talk a little bit about like to-dos first, and then because like they've been around for a few releases now, and then like what this new plan thing is, and like how developers use each of those, and are they the same or are they different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we initially started with the to-do tool. So it's a tool that you can invoke in the chat panel. I think it's behind, you can invoke it with hash to-dos. So this is sort of like our way of trying to ensure that the agent would stay focused when you're engaging with the agent for a complex task. So something that has multi-step that the agent laid out. And then as you see the context growing, you can see sometimes that the agent would completely forget what it started off with. So kind of giving some sort of grounding context on the higher level context that the agent can maintain as it works through complex tasks. And then kind of also we realized as we shipped this and as we started having more users try it out, that it was a neat way for the users to also get context on what the chat is actually trying to do right now at that point in time. Sometimes the chat panel can be pretty verbose, so it's kind of hard to get context on what's happening. So you can take a look at the to-dos, which are now closer to the chat input area in the new insiders. So, and you can quickly get context on what the current step the agent is at. And then you can choose to go and look at the rest of the tasks that are upcoming that the agent will engage with. Or you can just let the agent cook and then see what happens. And then once it's done, the agent should have marked off everything is done. And then, you can also be confident more often than not that most of your tasks are done.
Yeah,
so
I love that because I use the to-dos a lot because like when I give it the prompt and it creates a to-do list for me, or if I ask it to create the to-do list, the nice thing about it is I get to like real-time review. Now it's already starting to cook, but I get to review the steps. So I could actually stop it if I'm like, oh, you actually missed a thing, or like in my mind, I'm like, okay, let it finish. And I'll like follow up with additional to-dos or things like that. And then I'm a PM, so I'm on calls every single day, pretty much all the time. So I just kind of like put like my team's overlaps over so I can just see like the to-dos being checked off in real time. So I know like if I need to like, turn off my webcam for a second, then follow up after it's all done. So it's like nice to see it while it's cooking in the background.
Good.
I like to cook while I'm on calls, so that way I get a lot of code done, like send a prompt to join a Teams call and then boom, good to go. So
Mm-hmm. Another neat thing that about the to-dos is if for whatever reason your agent task was interrupted, you can pick right back up and the to-do context gets injected back to the agent, so it knows where to pick it up from. And usually I've seen it do a good job with continuity, especially
oh,
for long tasks.
that's awesome. That's very cool. So it's kind of like the to-dos are sort of planning. They're like plans that are being executed, but then this new plan agent is kind of like flipping that a little bit, right?
Yeah. To-dos are more on the scope is much smaller, I would say, for to-dos. They're more for the immediate steps at hand. Planning is more for more complex tasks that involves like a lot of deep research and then a lot of context gathering, going around and figuring out what's in your code base, trying to understand how your code base is set up, what instructions you want the agent to be following, and then compiling all of that into some sort of an executable and follow along markdown or a draft of a plan that you can then have agents work on either synchronously with local agents, or you can just kick them off on background agents or remote coding agents and take it off from there. So I would say planning is a much higher level focused task, whereas to-dos are more in session and just scope to the task at hand. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So when I'm inside of VS Code, I'm inside the chat, and then we've primarily always had ask edit agent, and agent's the default, right? It's just going to go do stuff unless I tell it don't write any code. But there's now a plan there, so this is that plan agent. So how do I think about it as a developer, like when I should switch into that context? Because like I know if I just ask the agent to do something with the agent mode, like it's going to do a little bit of pre-planning and task collaboration. So when should I think about like, oh, like I should actually do some planning first?
More often than not, this is the way we use it within the team. And I'm sure this, as you start using planning mode, you'll find more ways to use it. But we like to start off with trying to define like a really broad level task and then have the agent explore exactly what needs to be done. So think about it for like high level tasks such as, hey, I want to start something from new, like start a new feature, like a really large scoping feature. So for example, when I wrote the to-do tool and moved that around in VS Code, I started off in planning mode, trying to explore where the chat widget goes and then how it's rendered and then what are the different moving parts there. So helping kind of first going and finding context, understanding what all the moving parts are, and then building out this other widget that would then integrate with this widget, making sure I don't break tests, making sure that the UX is aligned with all of the different UX surfaces we have in VS Code. So a complex, multi-stepped task that involves a lot of research and a lot of planning, it is where you would use the planning mode, is what I would say. Yeah.
I think one thing that's been fascinating, and I'm interested in how it actually works like under the hood, but when I've used plan agent, the planning agent, is that it seems to ask me questions too. So it doesn't give me a plan. It seems to ask me questions like, how is this thing working? And I guess, how is it different than how it would traditionally plan? And like, why is it asking me questions?
Yeah. So we've scoped down planning with the goal that it helps you achieve, come up with a detailed plan. We've scoped the tools that it has access to only read-only tools, and then code-based search tools. So it can read through your code base to understand how it works. It only has read access, so it can read through all of the code changes and then all of the different other instructions that you might have in your repository, and then comes up with the detailed level plan. And then you can take it from there. It usually tries to help you. We've prompted it in such a way that it also helps identify potential gaps in what you're missing with the task that you're asking for. So it always asks you an open-ended questions. It figures out that needs resolution, and then you can take it from there. You can choose to try to resolve all of the open-ended questions and then go and implement it. Or you can be like, you know what, I'm just trying to explore this. So why don't you pick defaults and go from there and start implementing and then see what happens? Yeah.
That makes sense. So sort of inherently the team, like you said, is, I kind of summarize it here, so I understand it as well, is the team basically has this agent prompt set up in a way that is scope tooling, but then also is using those tools in a planning way and is specifying that it should inherently ask those follow-up questions if there are open-ended questions. Like, what are like, have you found like there's different like thresholds? Like, is it always going to ask me questions like with it? Is that like one of the requirements, or like if or will there be instances where there's none? And like, how many times, I guess, like, could it possibly ask me questions? Is it an infinite amount of times?
So this is a prompt that we're fine-tuning and then working on constantly. Currently, the way it works is we ask it to go and explore. We also use this tool called the Run Subagents tasks, the Subagents tool that goes ahead and does like deep research in its own little subagent context and comes back to you with just the right amount of context that you need for your actual tasks. So there is not much context mixing between the two. And then also keeps your context for the main task scoped. So we're trying to build this out so that it tries to go and do this research and comes back with all of the information that it found and then tries to put it back to the question that you try to form. And then it identifies open questions. More often than not, I've seen it ask you questions, having you kind of engage with it in the Q&A to try to resolve the open-ended questions. Sometimes it can get a little too deep, and then we're working on fixing that up. But I've found it really useful in the questions that it asks, because I wouldn't have thought of it.
I do as well. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, oh, I should have like asked that. You know what I mean? Can you customize it in any way? Like, you said that there's a predefined set of tools, but like, what if I have like MCP servers and I'm like really interested in like doing research on a bug and I needed to like go search GitHub or Sentry or something like that? Like, is it customizable? Kind of like the other sort of like agents in there?
Yeah, you can create custom agents, as we're calling them now. So you can open up the chat panel, and in the gear icon, you can create a new custom agent. And we have commands to help you do this. And each agent, you can define kind of the role that you want the agent to play. So what we've built in is the planning agent, but imagine you'd want an agent that helps you do test-driven development. So you can go and build up an agent and scope down the tooling so that you have access to the testing tools and then being able to compile and run your code. And then you can also define the handoffs between one agent to the other. So going seamlessly from planning and then going to a test development agent. Yep,
That's cool.
you can customize it. We've added support for creating custom chat modes where you can define the model that you want. You can define handoffs, which agent to hand off tasks to. The tools that you want to customize, and then finally the instructions that you want, which define the role that the agent will play.
Oh, that's very cool. So you can kind of see exactly if you were like, oh, I think like this planning mode like is working good, but like I need some customizations. I can kind of like copy it and create my own custom planning mode, like James's planning mode, basically.
Yeah. You can also take a peek at our planning mode that we've added. So if you open the agent drop down, there's a little icon there that asks you to configure agents. And if you click on that, and you'll be presented a quick pick with the different agents, you can go and click on the planning agent that shows on there. And then it's a markdown file. You can go and take a look at it to see exactly what we've defined. And you can see our custom prompt in there too. And you can copy over it and tweak it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, I like that. It's just open. It's just there. So you can see exactly what the team's doing. Well, what about like actually the prompt for it? Like, because I think one thing like I've really worked on, Bhavya, like over the last, 8-9 months since like agent mode came out. It's kind of crazy. I think it's like only been like less than a year, but I really try to work on like my prompting of like what I'm doing, like asking questions. Like when it comes to like model prompting, are there any best practices that you found like in this plan mode? Like how much context should I give it? Like are there specific models that like should I be picking a thinking model and this? Like what are your thoughts from like the engineering side of like how much context to give ahead of time for the plan, and also like models? Are there like models that maybe would work better in this context?
Mm-hmm. Working with agents is all about context engineering, right? So trying to figure out the right level of context engineering is kind of it. You could call it science, but sometimes I've also seen it go kind of awry. So there's a bunch of levers that you can pull that we provide to help with context engineering, especially with prompting. So for starters, at just the code base level, you can have actual GitHub instructions.md files that kind of lay out like all of the best practices that you follow in code, kind of the code structure that you have, where to go looking if you want to look at all of the UX widgets that exist or all of the testing infrastructure that exists. So adding that to context when you're trying to figure out what sort of code you want to implement. So it's all about context engineering, and then we allow you to customize it at different levels. One is the instructions files that you provide. The other one is the agents with their specific roles that you can assign them. And in a specific prompt that you would write, I would say it all comes down to giving it the right set of tools and giving it the right set of tools to go and look for what it wants to find, and also kind of giving it direction. So open-ended questions are great when you're exploring, but if you have some sort of context in terms of, it could even be a previous commit or a previous pull request that you worked on. So you can give that to the agent, and the agent knows to go and use the GitHub MCP tools to go and fetch the differences and then figure out what was implemented and then take it from there. So within a given task that you're trying to achieve, trying to find the right bits of context to give it without overwhelming the model is the way to go. Yeah, it is really task driven.
So even when I'm in planning agent, like I should still be like referencing files, referencing commits and things like that, if that's valuable, I guess, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, referencing files, giving it best practices on what to do, what not to do, potentially. As you start planning it out, tell the model that, hey, I want you to follow a test-driven development. So start with failing tests. So make sure you also account for writing tests in this plan that you've built out so that I can go and delegate it later on.
Oh, very cool. I've seen that the planning agent does something different than the other agents, like ask, edit, and the agent, if you will. Is that like when it finishes the plan, it has like little buttons like that are there that pop up? Like, what are those buttons? Like, I've never seen them before. And like, what should I use? Like, there's a few options there.
Those buttons are what we call as handoffs. And those are something that's available in Insiders right now for folks to use. And handoffs are our way of helping users kind of go from one agent performing a task to seamlessly handing it off to another role. So start off with planning, and once you're happy with where the plan is, take that plan, all of the context that you've gathered in that session, and then hand it off to an agent to go and build it or go and test something out. So you can, that's the mechanism for it. And then you can define these handoffs in your agent modes that you defined, the custom agent modes. So you can define the agent, the tools that the agent needs, the description, and then you can define something called as handoffs. We have good documentation for this, where you can call out which agent you want as handoffs. So a planning agent you will see has handoffs to our default agent so that it can go and start implementing things. Or you can also save all of the conversation as a markdown file so that it's a draft of a plan that you can share and review and then reuse across the team. So you can go and define custom agents so that they can talk to each other. Previously, you'd have to like get into this specific mode, chat mode, we would call it, go through all of this planning, and then the onus was on you to switch out agents and then go and implement it. But with handoffs, we kind of make this as a reusable component that you can use and share within the team so that you can also automate these tasks.
Well, that's very cool. Like, I kind of now understand exactly what's happening. I thought it was just like doing something completely different, but that makes a lot of sense. And it's really cool that you can define these agents and handoffs as well. I'll put links to the documentation in the show notes as well, which is awesome. And we're saying insiders. So if you're on 106, that's what it'll be in. And of course, you might be listening to this later. So check your version that's out there. It might be in there. If you or just open up the panel. If you see plan, then you have you have it. And if you don't, then you're there. So I did want to ask one final question here. Is like, I'm going through the plan and I see these handoffs. Do you have like opinions of like what I should do? I know you probably don't, but like there's the ability to like have the markdown there. Like, is there an advantage to that? Like, what's the purpose of that I should think about when I'm deciding to just implement or like have it save the document? What's your thoughts on that?
I guess it comes down to what you want to do with the markdown. If it's a really long, detailed plan, it would be good to save it because there's all of this deep research that's happened through sub-agents and trying to figure out all of the different code structures and patterns and implementation details that you'd want to save and kind of also have as a reference when the model goes and actually implements it. So you could save your file and then provide that as context to another agent. Or you could pick pieces from that file while still providing the file as context and have different agents working on different pieces of that plan. So that's how I see it. So it's for not too complex, if it's still a complex task, I would say you don't really need to make a plan. Just go figure out what happens and then hand that off to an agent to go take care of. But if you're building something from scratch, it's good to capture all of the requirements in terms of the platform you chose, why you chose a specific way to do something, where all the tests are, what testing infrastructure to use, and then have different agents implement different things. Go have something implement like failing tests. Have another agent explore the different UX options to implement, and then build that out. So that's where I think the plan is handy. And you can also save this plan in the end as a part of your README file so that other folks in your repository, using your repository, can reference it.
That's super cool. That's a really great breakdown because I've just thought about it as, well, of course, I'll just save it. I don't even know if I'll use it, but I like the idea. Is like, yeah, I'm probably going to be planning really, really big things. And maybe I want to break it down into multiple chunks or open issues off of it or refine it with a team member. And yeah, just having that marked down is super nifty. Anything else you want to talk about the planning agent at all, Bhavya, before we wrap up?
We covered the planning agent, the fact that you can hand it off. No, I think you got it all.
I'm super excited. I've been using this every single day since I got it. I love it. I almost plan, I think, every single thing that I do now because I'm like, why not? Why not just plan and give it a little bit more context? I think what I've seen, at least, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen definitely better, faster results. Like I know it takes like a little bit more time planning ahead of time, but for me, I think those follow-up questions are important. Like, okay, like is it coming up with the to-dos and the plan that I actually had in my mind? That was like one sentence, did I give it enough context? So I've been using it every day and I love it. So I hope everyone that's listening gives it a try. So, well, I will put links to everything at GitHub Universe. That definitely, if you haven't seen it, go check out the keynote there. I'll put links to that. And then if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put like a little demo video as well. If I'll do my own plan, I'll put on there as well. Bhavya, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Planning Agent.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
Awesome. And thanks for everyone listening. And don't forget, you can, of course, watch on the VS Code YouTube, and you can also listen in your favorite podcast player. So don't forget, just search VS Code Insiders Podcast, subscribe, do all the things, send it to all your colleagues. And with that, thank you so much for listening and or watching, and happy coding.